The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
All right, there we go. That was Echo Beach Muffa and the Muffins there. A bit of a retro blast. Trying to remember when that was actually from. I think it was early 1980s, right? So I've seen the video clip, a weird video clip, but a lot of those video clips I did in the late 70s and early 80s were kind of a bit like that. Troy Warner from the Paracave Podcast. Troy, how are you going?
Going fantastic, Duckman. Happy Easter to yourself and your listeners. I hope you've had a great day. And look, we've had a great round of rugby league that we're going to tuck ourselves into. So, yeah, had a great weekend, great day.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Easter to you too and your family. It's been busy as usual for me, so got a million things happening. So I did some family things today and doing more tomorrow, but work never stops for the wicked. You're always just constantly busy. So when you want something, you got to go and get it done. So unfortunately, it just means you're just constantly on the go a bit sometimes. So do you remember Echo Beach, that song there from Arthur and the Muffins? That give you memories from back being a young guy heading into your early 20s and stuff?
Yeah, look, I do remember the song. As you were just talking about it, I was trying to rack my brains as to when it actually did come out, but I couldn't remember. But I'm not too sure if it would have been played on an old TV show, Tour of Duty. Do you remember that one? An old war show. I think it was on Channel 10. That's where I can think it may have been from, where I first heard it. But other than that, just heard it on the classical, the other FM stations that you hear it on. And, certainly one that's a pretty catchy tune.
Yeah, come out in 1980 by the look of this. So I've seen a video clip before there. Echo Beach is actually Etobicoke Beach, Sunnyside Beach in Canada. So by the look of that. And they call it Echo Beach because of just the significance. Looks at the whole beach. There's hardly anyone that goes there at all. Looks beautiful in the pictures, but the video clip, when you see it, is some chick that looks like she's playing a recorder.
Okay.
And just went, it reminds me of being back in high school, having to play the recorder and that sort of stuff. So
Three Blind Mice and hot cross buns and
all the good quality stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't even know the kids now having a whack on the recorder, but if I had to get punished with it, don't stop now. Just keep on giving it to the kids. Keep making them have to learn irrelevant things that are not going to help them at all later in life. So make them do it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think they've even got electrical recorders out these days, I think I've seen. So, times have changed since we were at school. But, the old recorder, that was always fun to play.
Yeah, So I used to like getting a recorder and you put things in it and blow too hard and make it sound like it's like squealing and that stuff. So teachers get really happy with that sort of stuff. Let's jump into the footy before we start getting complaints. If you do want to complain about us talking about recorder, 0434 440 553. If you do complain, I can tell you right now, I can put together a collection of, I'll go through and pick my 20 best songs and I'll play them all by recorder just for someone. So
fired up already.
If that happens, 100%, we'll get into it. My footy tips are absolutely blown to pieces this week. They've been no good at all. It all started back on Friday night. The Panthers beat the Roosters 22 points to 16, and I was in TAFE, but when I came out, pretty sure the Panthers were up 22 points to 6, and then I just heard them Roosters get a try, get back into it. Penrith win it easy. Then I stopped at Servo, got a drink. Roosters got another try, went, surely they're not going to come back, and they didn't come back, right, because Penrith pretty much iced it, but they put Q in the rack because they got some inexperienced guys on the side. Brad Schneider, from the look of the highlights when I watched it afterwards, he did a pretty good job leading the side around. And Jerome Law, I think I read something today, said he's won 10 games out of 10 without Nathan Cleary in the team. So 100% strike rate there, and is happy to put it on show that he is the big man and was the big man. Got the job done for the Panthers against the full-strength Roosters side the other day.
Yeah, look, it was, you're right. Jerome Luai has never lost against the Roosters in his 10 appearances. And look, this Penrith machine is probably a well-oiled machine, even with Nathan Cleary, James Fisher-Harris and Scott Sorensen out of the side as well. They do have that next man up mentality, and Brad Schneider was one of those, obviously taking Nathan Cleary's spot. Has played a little bit of first grade before at Canberra, was over in England last year and has come back to the Panthers this year, and good thing that he did, because he stepped in and did a really good job for the Panthers. Little bit of controversy in his game with one of your favourite players, Joey Manu, scoring a try, but then it being disallowed for an obstruction. Jared Warrior-Hargreaves was ruled to have obstructed Dylan Edwards back at the fullback, which was about 25 metres away from the play. So anyone who saw that most people have said that should have been a try, because there was no way, absolutely no way Dylan Edwards was going to get there. I think there was one as well involving Luke Keary as well, but look, the Panthers, they just roll on. The Roosters, they'd be disappointed with that loss, because it would have been a good chance to get the win against the Panthers with those players out, but they're a bit of a bogey. The Panthers are a bogey side for the Roosters at the moment. So, look, it was a good game, but these Panthers, they just keep on rolling on.
Yeah, I know. So, one thing I suppose I was happy about, like I expected the Roosters would win, so I'm disappointed the Roosters didn't win. I genuinely thought they would. Sam Walker, so he's got a couple of question marks around him now. If he's like the second best halfback or whatever he is in Queensland at the moment, he really should have been able to dominate that game, right? And he wasn't able to step up. So there's a couple of question marks now about what are the Roosters going to do, right? Because really he should have played over the top of Brad Schneider, and pretty sure Brad Schneider's come in, followed the process, and dominated Sam Walker, which was a surprise, right? I didn't expect that would happen. I didn't even know Brad Schneider would be playing halfback for the game, to be honest with you, so I didn't look at the team at all. So I just saw Penrith got all these guys out. Maybe they'll win, maybe they won't, so I've tipped the Roosters, but it is a missed opportunity for the Roosters and Panthers. The only problem they'll probably be, I'm not sure, Ivan Cleary might not be too disappointed now, but that's 2 weeks in a row, because they did it against the Broncos as well. Blew them out early and then let them get a couple of easy tries, right, to get back in the position where they could come back into the game. The Roosters got closer because they wiped the Broncos off the park, but you need to be careful, right, because one of these sides is going to be able to get enough momentum. Maybe they will get over the top of the Panthers, and if other teams can see that might work, well, pretty much teams that would be watching now that you can back end Penrith up a bit if Penrith get in front, like they're taking the foot off the pedal a little bit this year that they never did in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Roosters scored 2 tries in 5 minutes at the end of the game, so made the score look a little bit more respectable. But you're right, the Panthers would be disappointed with that. 14-6 at half time, so 8-point difference there. Ended up being a 6-point ball game, so they were lucky, I guess, to get away with that, but they're still, they've got those defensive patterns in place, and they'd still back their defence. But yeah, you're right, they'd be disappointed with those 2 late tries in the game to give the Roosters a sniff. They actually declined the kick goal after the Daniel Tupu try in the last minute of the game, just to have that extra crack at potentially drawing the game and going into Golden Point, but it wasn't to be. So yeah, look, a little bit to work on for the Panthers, but I'm sure they wouldn't be too disappointed. They still got the win.
Yeah, I think they'll be pretty happy with their position at the moment. The Roosters, yeah, they'll be wondering exactly where they're standing. I am at the moment, so I'm wondering if they've really got a chance of having a crack at the comp, because that's your best chance against the best side in the comp. If you can't get the business done when they're light-handed, you're going to have a hard day when everyone's on song and they're fully loaded. The next game, Rabbitohs and the Bulldogs. I picked this one. I thought the Rabbitohs would win based purely on experience and all that sort of stuff. And it's good set are able to get the job done. But I think if you gave the Bulldogs another 10 minutes, that result would have been very different, and Bulldogs may have ended up winning that one.
Yeah, look, this was a good game for Good Friday. The Bulldogs coming off a good win against the Gold Coast Titans in round 3. The Rabbitohs, as we all know, have been struggling and have lost all 3 games so far this year. So it was a chance for the Rabbitohs to get back in the winners' circle, and they did that. But they didn't do it easy. The Bulldogs were winning 12-10 at half time and were really playing some good footy, and they really took it to the Rabbitohs. A controversial moment right on half time with Josh Addo-Carr being tackled into touch, going close to the line, and Latrell Mitchell coming over the top. And look, he didn't deliberately do it. I think when you look at it at that pace, he did connect with him with his hip, I think it was. I think when he just got over there, he tried to pull out, but it was too late, and unfortunately collided with him. Josh Addo-Carr didn't come back in the second half. He was ruled out of the game for the amount of time that he laid on the field. Obviously a bit concussed and out of it, so he didn't come back in the second half. Bit of other controversy as well out of the game as well, with Jacob Preston suffering a fractured jaw off trying to tackle Shaq Mitchell off a kickoff, and he went off for a HIA. He fractured his jaw in the tackle, but he came back later on in the game. The jaw was only, I think, revealed after the game, but the NRL, I think somebody has said that the NRL are potentially looking at maybe deciding to do something about the long kickoff because of these collisions. And look, that'll just change the game totally if that happens. I don't think they can change that, because that's part of the game. I think that's part of the reason why we see a lot of short dropouts at the moment, is because of these big collisions off long kicks, and that's why I think we see teams do a little bit more of the short dropouts, also to back their defence as well. And look, I don't think they can change that. But look, this was a good game. The Rabbitohs have got on the board for the year. The Bulldogs, look, they'll be disappointed about losing, obviously, but they certainly didn't go down without a fight, and they'll back that up again next week.
Yeah, so I've got no doubt about that. So I think the Bulldogs are starting to come good now. Having Stephen Crichton on board is going to help them turn their season around quite a lot too already, so it's making a big difference. They're more competitive straight away against the better side, so that's a positive step forward for them. And it's in the mentality. So Stephen Crichton's used to winning and doing things either on his own or with his team, so he's going to be able to help instill that in the Bulldogs as well, who I think working the right to get the right players. I don't think they've got all of them yet. They've got a bit of a plan where they've still got to get more guys, obviously, but need a bit of stability too, so they can build combinations and that as well. So buying 10 players every year is not helpful. So some stability will help that. The next game, this one surprised me. So the Broncos got up 38 points to 12 against the Cowboys. Based on the Cowboys' form alone, I picked the Cowboys and I thought the Broncos would be off tap at the moment. I thought without Reece Walsh, they just wouldn't be there and banging away and competitive enough to be able to do it, particularly after dropping points against Penrith last week. And I think we've been able to see now that Broncos are going to be very competitive again this year. And Cowboys probably had a bit of reality check come up against one of the better sides, and now they've been touched up themselves after touching up 3 sides in the first 3 weeks of the comp.
Yeah, well, this was the Queensland derby that we're always used to, and these games generally are very close games. I think they've played over the years. I think they've played about 8 or 9 one-point games, so a bit of anticipation in this game. The Cowboys 3 from 3 this year. The Broncos have lost I think a couple this year, so they needed to get back in the winners' circle. Obviously, they were going into the game without Reece Walsh, Payne Haas as well. Adam Reynolds did return for them, so that was a big bonus for them. The game started off in pretty much pouring rain conditions, which made handling pretty difficult. And I think the Cowboys struggled with that. They made a lot of errors, especially in their own half as well, which led to Brisbane tries. An amazing moment came, I think it was in the second half. Tom Dearden chased down Selwyn Cobbo and tackled him right in the corner. Selwyn took an intercept about 10 metres out from the Broncos line and was running straight down the field. And the other side of the field, Tommy Dearden has just sprinted across and covered a fence and took him into touch. Even though they were losing the game, he still made that effort and did that. So it just shows you how much it means to Tom to play rugby league, but he'll do anything he can to try and stop a try. And it wasn't going to win them the game, but obviously not get more points scored on them. The Broncos, they were playing in their 1994 strip, the diamond jerseys, so they look pretty good. And Pat Carrigan won the Carl Webb medal, so this game was in honour of Carl Webb, who sadly passed away late last year. He played for both the Broncos and the Cowboys, so every time these two teams play, I think it is, they're going to play for the Carl Webb medal as the player of the match. So a nice little touch there. So the Broncos, they're back into the winner's circle. The Cowboys, they go back to the drawing board, and look, they're still in the top 8, so one loss for the year isn't going to hurt them so much. Coach Todd Payton actually said, the way they played on Friday night, they wouldn't beat the Temora Dragons, so it's going to be an interesting week at training, that's for sure.
That's a pretty bad review. Right?
It is.
They wouldn't beat Temora Dragons.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't want to be a player on the Cowboys side hearing that your own coach can say, "Oh, we can't even beat Temora," and that's no disrespect to Temora Dragons. I'm sure they're a great rugby league side. I think.
Not professional, but
no, but I think Trent Barrett played for them. So, but definitely, if you're a Cowboys player, you wouldn't want to hear that from your coach.
Yeah, I know. So I was going to say, it sounds like things were good then. Tom Dearden chasing player down, Selwyn Cobbo across the field to make the cover tackle. It's important, right? It's an attitude thing. So if you throw the cue in the rack and give up, right, you're already defeated. So you're defeated before the opposition even beat you. So if that's your attitude, you give up easy, or you're not prepared to put in resilience and fight, well, you're not going to win those games, right? Because Penrith Melbourne Storm game that week, Penrith had a disallowed try. Storm plugged it. I reckon Jerome Hughes did one of these fake things where he pretended he couldn't make the tackle and did the same thing with Dylan Edwards. And then, just if you want to do that, like, this is going to happen all the time. You need to be able to overcome that and move on. If you're going to have a sulk about that sort of stuff and not have a go, well, then that's bad. But tomorrow, get rated like that. There'll be a few guys probably going to cop it a little bit this week at training. I think Toddy's a bit of a tough taskmaster. This next game fully just blew me away, right? So I just don't understand it. So I genuinely don't know where the Dragons are, right? I haven't watched them play yet this year. The Seagulls, right, should not have bombed this game. They dropped it 20 points to 12. And Gordon Tallis come out today and said, you wouldn't see Penrith or Melbourne Storm lose these games. Penrith don't get bored of what it takes to win the games. Regardless of what it is. Look like Manly were bored and were trying to play and do something exciting, and then stuffed the game up. That's pretty scathing, really, coming from Gordon, and he doesn't mind chopping it out either if that's what he thinks really happening. So obviously good win for Shane Flanagan and the Dragons, and they'll be very happy with that. But Seagulls, I thought probably they are the third best side in the comp before this game now. I'm wondering where they're really probably sitting at.
Yeah, definitely. They would have they did go into this game as favourites, having won the first 2 games of the year and going down by 4 points to Parramatta last week. They went into this game as favourites. I tipped them, as did many people tip them. But I don't know what it is. I think the Dragons, they just grow an extra leg down in Wollongong. They seem to play, in my opinion anyway, better football down in Wollongong. I don't know what it is, but it was great to see another full house down in Wollongong, 16,000 down there. The hill was full, sunny conditions. It was great. And that's just not at Dragons games at the moment. Across the league, they're having great crowds turn up. They're having sellouts, which is great for rugby league. But getting back to this game, Manly scored the first try off a miraculous Tom Trbojevic offload. He had about 4 or 5 Dragons players in and around and on him, but somehow he slipped the ball out and Kula scored the try. And they started off well, but again, they just seemed to make a lot of handling errors and mistakes. And the Dragons, they just were enthused about the game and scored some really good tries. Tyrell Sloan scored a double. I think the first time in his career that he scored a double. And as I said, playing down in Wollongong, they just seemed to grow an extra leg and really put in, and they got the win over what many people have said will be a top 8 side this year.
Oh, 100%. So I'll tip Manly at the start of the year to be the biggest improvers this year. I think they'll push for a top 4. I still think they'll push for a top 4 even though they drop that game. It's just odds, like an attitude thing or whatever. Maybe St George, Illawarra, you can see the turnaround with Shane Flanagan there already. So like we talked about before, St George Illawarra had no problems getting in front in games in the last couple of years and being up at half-time or heading into half-time, and then they drop a couple of tries here or there and then drop games they probably should have won. So their last couple of seasons could have been vastly different. Maybe we're seeing a change here because they're showing some resilience and coming back from games to be able to win games. And they've iced a couple of games too this year, done a pretty good job, and they've also been blasted, which probably was good for them as well. It's given them a bit of a wake-up about where they're at and lets them know that they're not invincible and they're not on their way to a premiership, but they are improving. Next side here, so the Titans up against the Dolphins. I expected the Titans would lose. I'm about 99% sure I tipped the Dolphins to win this one after what Titans did last week against Canterbury. I thought they were going to win for all money with experience again, right? And they didn't do it. So they went down 30 points to 14. And this result, strangely enough, now sees the Titans on top of the Dolphins on top of the table for the first time.
Yeah, well, they've had some good wins and some big wins, scoring a lot of points. And look, the Titans at the moment, they're struggling, and that Des is not getting out of his players what he wants to get out of these players, and then they're just not performing at the moment. Unfortunately, they did lose Big Tino, their captain, last week to an ACL injury, and he's out for the year now, so that was a big blow for them. But Jaden Campbell returned back on the weekend at fullback, and the Titans, they actually started off really well. They scored the first 2 tries of the game, and you thought this is going to be a good close contest, and it was 12-10 at half-time to the Dolphins, and it was a really good game for them up until half-time. But then after half-time, the Dolphins just came out, and Herbie Farnworth scored a try, Hamaso Tabuai Fado scored a try, Josh Kerr scored the final try, and they just ran away with it, 30 points to 14, which is pretty pleasing for the Dolphins. Max Plath went into the sin bin, and he's looking at, I think, 2 weeks for a hip drop tackle. I can't remember who it was on, but it was a pretty sort of bad looking tackle, so he may take the early plea and sit a couple of weeks out. But as I said, the Titans, they're in worrying times at the moment, and they just have to go back and think what they're going to have to do this week at training and get a win next week, because if the more games they lose, they're going to get further and further behind, and they obviously will not want to finish last on the table.
Yeah, it's right. And it's going to make it harder to get a win too, right, if they can't get one sooner rather than like I would have pegged that one down. It would have been a game they would have thought that they could or should win. So Des Haslam would have thought that as well, just looking at Dolphins and the amount of experience they've got. Good news for Titans, I suppose, is David Fafita come out through the week and says he's not going to exercise the clause to leave the club. He's going to stay with the club for moving forward. So that's going to be, I think, dropped from his contract, or I don't know if it stays there every year indefinitely, or he's not going to exercise it now because he can use it before round 10. He's not going to take that up. And I believe for the Dolphins, Isaiah Katoa now has signed a contract extension or something to stay with the club for a couple of years.
Yeah, so that's good news for the Dolphins.
Yeah, very positive things.
Yeah, very good news for the Dolphins. 2027, I think he's up there too. So an exciting young half, and that's what they probably want, is a little bit of consistency in the halves, because that's your main position. So good news for him, good news for the Dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game, this went the way I thought it would go to. The Warriors today, home against the Knights. They got a 20 points to 12 win. What they might have done it a little bit easier, to be honest with you. And what is the go with the vitriol chopping out Jackson Hastings? So apparently one of the commentators said something. He put something on Facebook about it, said, who's commentating the game? I said they saw me sleeping underneath the tree with my mates and I was having a sleep and not really cared about the game. Why is this happening? Why has this been happening for the last few weeks? It's like people are trying to drive him out of the club or something. He's very upset about it. And I don't blame him. It really is like people in the club are trying to, it just shaft him or something. So they wanted to bring him to the club, and he's a good player. I don't get what's happening.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure. I didn't hear that in the commentary, but at one point I did see a group of, I'm assuming it might have been New South Wales Cup players sitting on the hill, or extra players sitting on the hill watching the game, but I definitely don't think they were asleep, so I don't know where that's coming from. But look, I tipped the Warriors to win this game. I thought they would have done it a little bit more comfortably, as you said. Another sellout over there in Auckland, which is great to see. As I said before, the crowds are just going ballistic in rugby league at the moment. So, yeah, last year in the semi-final, I think the Warriors put 40 points on the Knights. The Knights, they hung in there. The 12-6 at half time. It's still anybody's game, but they just couldn't get over the line and score those points. Bradman Best scored a late try, put a bit of respectability back into the score. But look, it's always tough to win over in New Zealand, and especially when they've only won one game of the year. So they wanted to get back-to-back victories, and they did that. Sean Johnson, he just pretty much led the side around, and Chanel Harris-Tavita, he was a late inclusion, scored a try as well. So Luke Metcalf unfortunately left the field with injury. Not too sure about those details at the moment and how long he is out for. So that will be a big loss for the Warriors if he's out for an extended period, because he's been one of the better players this year at 5'8". So hopefully it's not too long. So for Newcastle, they're certainly having a different year than what they did last year. I think at the start of last year they were sort of the same, but then they went on that winning run. But you can't always rely on going on a winning run to make semi-finals. So they want to, I guess, as I said, go back to the drawing board. Maybe bring Jackson Hastings back into the team and see what happens. The Knights have had a couple of losses now. They won last week, but against a Melbourne Storm side. But so yeah, maybe bring Jackson back in because, as you said, he's a good player.
Yeah. So the question is, who do you drop? Tyson Frizzell? So is that what we're looking at? Maybe. So
well, I think he's one of the behind Kalen Ponga. I think he's one of the club captains. So I don't think he would be dropped.
Yeah, so you're going to have to work around with that. And I was pretty sure Snell Harris-Tavita scored 2 tries for the day. I know with the Knights that Adam O'Brien is going to have his work cut out for him. And he really is in the same position as last year. So before he went on the winning run, I think he went really super close to maybe getting a sack last year. And he's lucky that the good run worked in his favour when Kalen Ponga was stood out of State of Origin. That really helped Kalen Ponga just have a direct focus on his health. And then after his health, was able to get himself right to just worry about the Knights instead of having side issues and that. So that really helped them get the maximum benefit too with Jackson Hastings. I don't know. I don't think Jackson Hastings, I don't think you can play him 13. I think he's too good to be playing there, but because he's a ball player still. So I don't know if you'll want to play him there. And if you do, you start having to juggle too many pieces around all over the place. So they've got to try to work out if they don't play Jack Cogger at halfback, what are you going to do with Jack Cogger? Because at the moment it's like they've got too many halves and they need all 3 of them really to be striking or working together.
Yeah, it's a tough one to do because, I mean, a lot of people have said that Jack Cogger and Jackson Hastings are similar sort of players and you can't put one at 5'8", one at halfback. That'd be the only suggestion I could have. You can't really put Jackson at number 14 because you've got Jaden Brayley there, the backup hooker, so you're not going to put another sort of back on the interchange bench, so it is an interesting one. I think the first week Jackson went back to New South Wales Cup, I think he did 5 try assists or something like that, so I guess the best thing that he can do, and look, I'm no expert, but I guess the best thing he can do is just go back to New South Wales Cup, just train hard, play hard, and if he's performing in New South Wales Cup and they're winning games, then Adam O'Brien's definitely got to have a look at him for sure. One of the highlights out of today's game was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck as well. He played fullback today. First time he's played fullback for the New Zealand Warriors in a few years, obviously being in rugby. Ran for 275 metres, so he was one of the star players of the game. And there was one point there where he's on one of his runs and he was back to his old best, dancing off both feet, or especially his left foot, and mesmerising defences. They had no idea what he was going to do. So great to see him back. And look, it's only been a month of football, but it's certainly looking like he hasn't left the game, or he left the game at all.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm wondering, has any player ever run 500 metres in a game? Or if they have, has anyone run 1,000 metres in a game? You reckon we'll ever see it? I don't think we'll see 1,000 because you're going to need to do like 50 runs or something to do it. So it's not going to happen.
I think Jason Taumalolo, I think he holds the record for the most run metres ever, and I'm not too sure how much that is, whether it's a 400 mark or not. Or a high 300s, but I think it was something ridiculous. But I think he holds the record for most run metres in a game.
Yeah, I know when I was playing for Cambridge Park, we played against St Dom's one year, and I'm pretty sure one of the guys ran about 5,000 run metres when he scored about 9 tries against us. So wasn't one of our best performances, I can tell you. Watching them just smash tries is bad. So I had to get beaten like that too. But that doesn't happen in the NRL. So let's have a look before we bounce into the next game. It's still on. So Adam O'Brien, is he under pressure? So is he one of the coaches that's going to have some inert pressure on him? Because there's an expectation in Newcastle too that you're going to have a competitive side every time, all the time. So from the success that they've had, and that's kind of always shadows the coaches up there as well.
Look, I guess in some point of the year, every NRL coach is under pressure, but Newcastle have just re-signed him for another couple of years, I think. So they've obviously showed him a bit of faith by re-signing him, so I don't think they're going to get rid of him anytime soon, only because of that reason. So obviously he's under pressure because of the way that they finished last year and they made the semi-finals. The pressure beyond to make semi-finals again, so that's the only thing I can think of. But I think they've just re-signed him, and they won't sack him into this new deal in the first year, I don't think.
Probably not. If it just, I didn't know they renewed his contract. So if I did that, he won't get sacked at the moment. So I'm going to death ride Trent Robinson here soon. Justin Holbrook sitting in the background. I can tell you, if I was Trent Robinson, I'd be wondering, when is he going to take over?
Well, I think
that'll be happening.
Yeah, I think Uncle Nick's given Trent Robinson a job for life, or however long he wants a job at the Roosters for. I think because he's won premierships, and I think Uncle Nick, he's pretty loyal. So I think he'd have one of the final says in coaches. So I think Trent's got a job there for however long he wants. I think Brad Arthur's probably one of the coaches under pressure if Parramatta don't make the semi-finals this year. He recently, I think it was last year, he signed a couple of extra years contract, but for a club like Parramatta not to make the semi-finals 2 years in a row, that would be devastating for the fans, especially, and I think he would be under a lot of pressure. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who would be under. I mean, Cameron Ciraldo, even though he's got a 5-year deal, probably under a little less pressure. But I mean, he's got Gus Gould there at the club, so any club that's got Gus Gould at the club certainly would feel pressure.
Craig Fitzgibbon will have problems if he can't do anything with the Sharks. So they've got a pretty strong side. I still think they'll finish down near the bottom 5. So, but we'll jump into that game right now. So the Sharks are up after being down 12-0 against the Raiders. 62 minutes in now, they're up 24-18. I picked the Raiders based on how the Raiders are playing. When I heard the Sharks had missed and stacked the players, I was thinking, oh, this is good. Now it's even worse. Now it's 28-18. What is going on?
Yeah,
look, this is getting worse.
Yeah, I know. Oh, good for Sharkies and their fans, but not good for you and I who tipped the Raiders, that's for sure. Yeah, the Raiders were up 18-0, and then 18 all at half time. The Sharks scored the last 3 tries, and look, by the looks of it, they've run away with it at the moment, scoring a couple of extra tries. So to have that 10-point buffer with 15 minutes to go. So look, it's 15 minutes is still a long time in rugby league. Only 2 converted tries behind. So, but with that home crowd advantage, it looks like the Sharks maybe will run away with this one and get the win, especially after their performance against the Tigers last week.
Yeah, so they won't be happy with that. So they've given a reaction there. A pretty good side. I just think the Sharks, if I had to pick a side, then I didn't start out to pick sides I thought were going to be good or not good. I thought they were one that's probably not maybe going to aim up to the level that they should out of sides that are there. Souths have done their best to prove me wrong and prove that they can actually do it, and out of hold my beer moment and gone out there to do their best to make sure they can underperform. I really think Jason Demetriou is under the pump. If Souths don't do too well, I think that he might be looking for a new job by the end of the year. Not sure he'll get flicked through the year because who do you replace him with? Who's the Souths assistant coach underneath him?
I think they've got Ben Hornby there on the coaching staff. I'm not too sure who else is there. That's the only one I can think of at the moment. So he would certainly be a candidate for an interim coach. There's always the little bit of talk recently about Wayne Bennett as well, because he apparently wants to keep on coaching even after this year. We see Christian Wolf, he's going to take the Dolphins head coach position next season. So Wayne will go and find another club. He'll have no dramas finding another club. And look, as you said, the pressure is on Jason Demetriou to hold his position. At the moment, it's not too bad. He doesn't think that he has pressure on his job. He doesn't feel like he's got pressure on his job. He doesn't feel like he's going to lose it going into work every day. So I guess that's the mentality you have to have. But certainly three straight losses to start off the year. They've still got a tough run to go over the next few weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. They've got the Warriors next week, so that'll be interesting for sure. Look, just doing a little bit of research while we've been talking, your favourite player, Joey Manu, he held the record. I think he's got the record actually from 2021, I think it is, 373 metres so in a game. So Clint Gutherson previously held the record with 369. So Joey Manu, and he did it also in a test match as well against Tonga, 404 metres. So in 2022. So some amazing figures there from one of your favourite players.
So that's obviously only metres talking about when he's running with the ball, because when a defender, I haven't seen him make a tackle for about 3 years. So that's why he always looks clean and probably fresh enough to do these run meters.
It's funny you should mention that, because he pulled off an absolute cracker of a tackle on Jerome Luai on Thursday night against the Panthers. So he absolutely read the play perfectly, and an absolute bell ringer on Jerome Luai. And Jerome even gave him a bit of a tap on the head, saying, "Well done, great tackle." So he can tackle.
I saw that. I saw that tackle, so someone needs to take a picture of it and put it up on his wall, because I think that's the first one I've ever seen him make. So he just doesn't make many. I don't know how he does it either. He just seems to get himself in positions where he just doesn't need to do it. So he doesn't get caught in one-on-one defence hardly ever. So it's just amazing. So gets in the inside channels. He does defend. He does make tackles, but you never see him in a position where he has to make too many one-on-one tackles. So it's a surprise for a guy who plays like outside centre, but that happens. We'll go to the Eels versus West Tigers now, while I calm down from thinking about Joey Manu, who frustrates me. So the Eels are up 4 o'clock tomorrow. That's going to be a good game, and I think it might be a tough one for the Eels. So, like, they are expected, and I did tip them, I'd be thinking should be able to beat West Tigers without the world's biggest problems. But is it really going to be the world's is it going to be an easy walk in the park? I don't think it will be, really.
Yeah, look, these Easter Monday clashes between the Eels and the Tigers, they certainly throw up a few surprises sometimes. Jackson Hastings, a player we talked about before, when he was at the West Tigers, kicked a field goal to win the game for the Tigers. Obviously, the opening of Combank was 51-6. Parramatta won, so they've also had some really close clashes. There's been a 31-30 game. I think there's been a 12-10 game as well in the past. So the Tigers, they'll go into this game with a lot of confidence, having won last week against the Sharks, 32 points to 6. That was at Leichhardt Oval, a full Leichhardt Oval. This one's a little bit different at Parramatta. So the Eels, they're going to have to do it tough. No Mitchell Moses, and today Bryce Cartwright was ruled out as well with a rib injury. So they're going to do it tough. They've got a new halves combination. Blaze Talagi and Dylan Brown are the half 5'8", so that'll be interesting how that goes. Kelma Tuolagi comes into the second row for Bryce Cartwright, and Brennan Hands comes onto the bench. Mike Acevo is back on the wing after serving 3 weeks suspension. He doesn't mind scoring a try against the Tigers either. But look, as you said, it's going to be interesting. Hoping for a full house there tomorrow, just to keep those crowd figures going up and up and up for the NRL. But the Tigers, they'll be full of confidence, and confidence is an amazing thing in team sports. And Api Coruscant, captaining the side, he's been playing some great footy. So look, it won't be easy, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Do you think that the Eels are going to entertain the whole Mitchell Pearce thing? So that came out today in the paper. Michael Carianis thinks that they're going to look at that and look at trying to pick him up as a short-term injury replacement.
Well, that one, caught me by a bit of surprise this afternoon when I saw it as well. It would certainly be an interesting one. Mitchell Pearce at a halfback for Parramatta. He retired last year over in the English Super League after the grand final, so he hasn't played competitive rugby league for 6 months. He'd still be pretty fit. He wouldn't obviously have the match conditions. I think also too, I heard James Graham say that in terms of drug testing and the like, you got to be involved for about 28 days or something like that. So they'd have to do that. Obviously, you couldn't be rushed into the side. So there's something to do. If you're a contracted player, then there's 28 days before you can play after, I guess, all testing and the like. So obviously it wouldn't happen straight away. But look, it's certainly an interesting one. Mitchell is a quality player, an Origin player, has won a competition as well with the Roosters back in the day. Did okay at Newcastle, went okay over at Catalans, led them to a grand final. Unfortunately, they lost it, but has got the experience in the NRL, played over 300 games, so pretty handy player to bring in for Mitchell Moses, but I just don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I think he's still got plenty to add. I'll throw another one up we were just talking about before. Jackson Hastings. Would the Eels sign Jackson Hastings?
I don't think they would as a short-term thing, simply because I think when Mitchell comes back, they've obviously got Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses there, and I just think, look, whilst they've got a few, that they do have a few young halves in their side. As we see this weekend, Blaze Talagi, that's his favoured position at 5'8". So, I mean, they've got that position covered. They've got young Ethan Sanders as well in New South Wales Cup, who hasn't played first grade this year or yet. So they've got a little bit of cover there. I don't think they would sign Jackson Hastings.
Yeah. So, the more and more I think about everything that's going on with Jackson Hastings that the Knights and also Wayne Bennett, I'll make a massive call here. Wayne Bennett, I can see him coach Melbourne Storm when Craig Bellamy walks away.
Yeah, well, that is a massive call. I think the thing about Wayne Bennett is I think he likes to go to clubs where he potentially...
Then he can make a change, and improve them.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And, and potentially have the chance of winning a competition. So I think that's the sort of team that Wayne would want to go to. And, look, definitely, there was that report a few weeks ago about Wayne Bennett potentially linking up with Parramatta. So... as maybe a general manager of football, but I think he wants to be a coach, so I don't think that'll happen either. But someone like a Parramatta would probably suit Wayne Bennett because he can see the potential there. It's just about untapping it and taking that sort of team to the next level and potentially win a premiership. So that would be one club. I don't know which other club he would be suited for. I don't think he'll go back to Newcastle. Obviously, they've got Adam O'Brien there, but I don't think he'll go to Melbourne.
Yeah, I think he'd be looking at a new club, like whoever the new clubs are that come in. So he's waiting to see what happens there. And with Jackson Hastings, what I could actually see happening so we've got to remember he's at Newcastle and contracted there, but if for whatever reason it just doesn't work and they decide he might need to move on, I could see him being highly beneficial at number one, the Dragons, number two, Gold Coast Titans. They need someone with his experience and sort of leadership. Particularly the Dragons, they might want to set something up in case Ben Hunt does want to go. That would make Jackson an attractive proposition in my head because he can work and do what you need to do. Not sure if he's worked with Shane Flanagan before or how they got on when they did work together, if they did. So that would be something you need to have a look at as well.
Yeah, look, there's always talk about Ben Hunt. I think he's settled down at Dragons at the moment. But for how long he's going to be there for, I'm not too sure. But whether he sees out his contract or whether he leaves at the end of next year or this year, I don't know. But, that could be a good fit for Jackson Hastings if he's not too happy at Newcastle and Newcastle are happy to let him go. As I said, the best thing for Jackson to do, and I'm sure he knows this as well, he's pretty experienced, is to just play hard, train hard, perform in New South Wales Cup, and then that's only going to be good for him. And then Adam O'Brien will have no choice but to pick him in the first grade side. And then if he does the same thing in the first grade side, well, then these other clubs will definitely have a look at him as well and potentially try to get him out of Newcastle.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, that's it for Rugby League. So what do you got coming up in the Paracade podcast this week, Troy?
I'll have as usual, a replay of this chat for the listeners who may have missed it live. I will have a review of the Eels vs Tigers podcast coming out probably on Tuesday. I may record that when I get home from the game. The usual stuff, the tipping podcast and a interview-based podcast on Thursday. And any other sort of Parramatta news or rugby league news, I might chuck up a podcast as well. So plenty of content coming out on the Para Cave podcast throughout the week to keep me busy, and obviously football as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In a few weeks' time, we'll be doing a show directly from Hawkesbury show. It's around about the 20th of April, so it's before Anzac Day, the Friday and Saturday beforehand. I don't know the exact dates off the top of my head. I just know that's when it is. So you might be able to come in if you want, and we can do it direct from the show, or I can still call you in and we can chat about that, about everything rugby league. So, but there could be good opportunities there to get out in the public and say hi to all the people that listen to us week in and week out.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds interesting and exciting. If it's around as you said, what was it, the 20th of April, that sounds okay. The Eels are up in Darwin that weekend, so I don't think I'm travelling up to Darwin on the Friday. So, that sounds interesting, and certainly something to maybe look at doing. And, it'd be great to meet some listeners and just get some feedback, and hopefully they enjoy our chats each Friday and Sunday.
Well, the worst thing could happen, so throw cabbage at us, eggs or tomatoes or some combination of all of that, and several other things that could do WWE style and throw chairs, so that's probably not a good thing. I'm not recommending it.
Maybe the Roosters and Sharks supporters. Who else have you thrown under the bus and don't like? I don't think I've upset anybody with some massive bold calls like yourself.
Yeah, Troy hasn't upset anyone yet. I'm going to throw Souths in it now too. Souths, their season is teetering on the edge. So if they keep losing another couple of games, I think their season pretty much is done. To be honest with you, they drop another 2 or 3 games. It's going to be hard as anything to come back. If you're like 8 games in and down like 5 or 6 games, like how are you going to do that? So you're going to need to probably win 16 to 18 games to make the finals.
Yeah, well, there is South supporters everywhere, as we know, with the random South guys and girls, I guess, in jerseys that you see at all these major sporting events. So there'll probably be some at the Hawkesbury show as well.
Yeah, that's right. So if you don't like me or you want to catch up with me at Hawkesbury show, find the Pulse FM stand and you can message through 0434 440 553. Let us know what you think of me thinking that South season is pretty much over. So if they don't get on a winning streak by round 8, they haven't won, let's say, at least 4 or 5 games, I think they're going to have big problems. So there you go. Message through, tell them what you think. Troy's not advocating it, just me. So it's all on the Duckman. Troy, thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate coming on for a chat. And I'm sure South fans, they will text through that as a guarantee. That's a dead set guarantee.
Not a problem anytime, and I'll be interested to see what they say. Thank you very much, Duckman.
Absolutely, no worries. Thanks, Troy, and chat to you later on.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. See you next time.